Hey everyone, welcome back to the AAVIP podcast. This is Bertin Salguero from Memorial Sloan Kettering in New York. I'll be your host for this episode. Thank you all for joining us today, where we will discuss the importance of physician collaboration with industry. Today, we're very lucky to have Dr. Catherine Oberg join us. Dr. Oberg is an assistant attending Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, assistant professor of the Weill Cornell School of Medicine, associate program director of their Interventional Pulmonology Fellowship. Welcome, Kat. Do you have any relevant conflicts of interest to disclose?
Thanks for having me. Yes, I am a consultant for several companies. So actively, it's Medtronic, Intuitive, Cook Medical, and Olympus.
Okay, great. As a reminder, the views expressed on this podcast are those of the speaker and mine and not necessarily endorsed by the AAVIP. With these formalities done, let's get it started. As interventional pulmonologists, our daily practice is deeply intertwined with the medical industry. Yet, the relationship between physicians and the industry is often overlooked in training and academic discussions. In this podcast, we'll delve into the important topic of exploring how the medical industry shapes our work and the potential benefits and challenges of these collaborations. So, Kat, tell us, why do you think there should be involvement of physicians in industry?
Well, I have to say, I'm so glad that you guys are doing this because, as you mentioned, I think this is a topic that's very underrepresented, and it is something that's growing more and more day by day. Industry does so much for us as physicians and in the medical community. And it's not just in the way that a lot of people think, which is in the innovation side, although that's certainly part of it. Industry is involved in education. They're involved in marketing your program and supporting your cases and helping you with the job market. I mean, the list goes on and on. I think industry moves our field along, whether we want to acknowledge that or we don't. Things like robotic bronchoscopy and EBUS and all of these advanced therapies for emphysema, these were not developed by academic institutions or by the NIH. These were, industry funded, supported, innovated, and carried out projects. And that's why we have these tools available. Studies for these types of things, the R&D for these types of things is enormously expensive. And it's industry and pharma that are footing the bill for that. So I think the sooner we accept that industry is not the enemy, the more productive and streamlined our working relationship with them will be. They need physicians to help them and to tell them what it is that we need. An engineer can create a device that looks amazing to them, but then we get it and it's not functional at all for what we need. In a similar but opposite vein, we can complain all day in the OR about things that don't work, or we can, dream with each other about things that we wish that we had. But the reality is that the vast majority of us are not going to be the ones to create and design and roll these things out on our own. So I think the synergy between the resources that industry has and really the brilliant people who work for industry, for these companies, I think that synergy with physicians can be very powerful.
Definitely. And even from the beginning of pulmonology and interventional pulmonology, I love seeing how the first flexible bronchoscope that Shigeto developed, he did it in collaboration with Olympus. It was not something that he developed on his own entirely. It did it working in collaboration with Olympus. So I think that interventional pulmonology, has a strong relationship with industry ever since its beginning.
Absolutely. I think if you look at basically anything it is that you're using on a daily basis, you can thank an industry partner for having developed it and created it. And if there's something about it that you don't like or you do like, there's a likelihood that a physician who was working with industry either helped them design that, or that's a change that you as a physician could even help and collaborate with industry in making. So there's a lot of opportunity there for physicians to work with industry.
And I'm guessing that going along this same line, industry has a lot of interest of hearing from physicians, and there's a lot of space and opportunity for collaboration of the physicians that are working, day on day at the bedside with industry to improve the patient care.
Oh, absolutely. Like I mentioned at the beginning, it's not just the innovation and the R&D and the tools that we use, even though those things are highly impactful. I think people forget that, industry provides a ton of education for physicians in the community, for physicians in training, for medical students. And they want us involved, not only so that we can just benefit from it, but because we can help them develop the content. We can make sure it's accurate, it's relevant, it's not biased, and it's disseminating guideline-based data that, of course, our patients benefit from. Industry helps you grow your program, which, for you, the sole goal is to reach more patients and provide better patient care. And industry helps you do that. They can access targeted data that you can use to look at groups who may want to refer to you. They will put on dinner and other events, to help you market yourself and your program. They sponsor educational events. They help you put on educational events. So they do want to help you so that you can help patients. They also will support your cases. Of course, it depends company to company, but in general, industry provides a huge amount of case support. And, you're not always doing everything that you learned in training forever, hopefully, right? Things evolve and you're out in practice and you're learning these new skills. And the majority of the time, it's industry who's teaching you how to do this. They're there in the cases with you. They commonly know more than you do, when you're starting out. They hook you up with educational things, with expert leaders, who you can go do case observations with, or they'll bring in to proctor you. And all of that's expensive and basically directed at you and making you a better doctor and a better proceduralist to provide better patient care.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I think about hearing a lot of the senior physicians that have trained me in the past, how they share the positive experience that they had when new technology comes out, and they've done things in the same way for a decade, and now they're learning. I remember hearing one of my attendings how he learned EVIS for the first time when it came, and it was an industry sponsored weekend course where they were getting exposed to EVIS for the first time, and him just seeing that changed his practice, and he went on from doing blind mediastinal biopsies to now using EVIS for the first time. And all of this was industry pushed that improved the patient care in this individual institution.
Yeah, I think sometimes we don't think about what it's going to be like when we're out of training, because you're in training for so long, for such a large part of your life, and that's how you're learning everything. But when you're out, you may have partners and you may learn from each other, but otherwise, you're going to society meetings and you're basically on your own. So it's industry that keeps you kind of aware of the cutting edge things and helps you learn how to implement these things in your practice.
Absolutely. Now, working with industry sounds like it's something extremely important for all of us in interventional pulmonology that has a lot of positive things, but what should physicians look for to protect their medical decision-making when there are conflicts of industry, when they're working with industry at the same time?
It's a great question, and I think like a mandatory question anytime we have a discussion like this. We know that there has been more than one instance of shady business, if you will, between physicians and industry or pharma or what have you. These types of things are publicly available, and these instances are the things that have influenced legislation like the Sunshine Act and transparency about your relationships with industry. You shouldn't be getting paid to use a device or a product or a drug. And it sounds kind of silly to say that, but this was happening, which is, I think one of the things that has really tainted this relationship. You should use a product or a device or whatever because it's the best choice for your patient. If you are in a position to make decisions about which products or devices or drugs or whatever that you use in your practice or in your hospital, it is your duty and your obligation to continually analyze the market in an unbiased way. You may know and love a company and want to keep working with them, but if technology advances or changes, or there's something else that's a better option that's more cost effective or whatever for your patient population, you just have an innate obligation to investigate that and see it through, sort of regardless of your relationship with another company. I think you'll never go wrong if you just remember that your primary goal is patient care. Like you work for your patient, and your hospital system, of course, but you work for your patient and not the company, right?
Yeah.
It's sort of a cynical statement to say, but it's sort of true. I think you have to remember that working with industry is still a business. They're still a business.
Yeah.
You're still a business. And you may have some mutual goals, but you can also have disparate goals. And you really have to be aware of that, and very conscious of that when you're working with industry and making decisions. I think the last thing is that you have to make sure that you're always very transparent about it. You asked about COIs at the beginning of this. Any talk, any whatever that you do, you should just start off with that, because there's nothing shameful in this. There's a physician who I know and love, and we probably all know and love, who very proudly at the beginning of his talk says, hey, look at all these companies I work with. If you're not on this list, come find me, which I always love, because he's proud of the work that he does, but he's also very transparent about it, which I think is the key.
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. It's also, like you said, I really like the point that you said. The important thing is remembering what is the priority, and the priority is patient care. And for example, in my very short time in interventional pulmonology, I have seen how passionate people are about their respective navigational system they use for biopsying solitary nodules.
Yes.
But the bigger takeaway for me from that is how strongly each interventional pulmonologist believes that is their best for their patients, and that is their best for their equipment and for their hospital and their bronchoscopy suite. So I think there's a strong, good sentiment behind everyone's decision of offering what they believe is the best. Now, for someone like me, that we're early career physicians, how do you recommend that we could start developing relationships with medical industry?
There's a lot of different ways. I think one of the first ways is to get to know your reps and get to know your clinical support team, because they're there and around and they want to talk to you and get to know you. Talk to them about what you're interested in. Go by the industry booths at the conferences. They're all there. When you give out your, information and somebody actually sends you an email or a text message, respond to it, and follow up with those things. I mean, God knows I'm bad about it also, but following through is a big part of it. Go to dinners that they put on. Be prepared to talk to them about what you're interested in. Apply for industry funding for a study that you want to do, even if it's just a small amount of money or something retrospective. There are small to large industry grants, and they want to support that research. Approach industry that may be interested in supporting a conference or an educational event that you're putting on. And when you approach them, be thoughtful about what you're asking for and how they're going to be represented for the money that they give you and all of those things. Apply for educational events that they are putting on or supporting. There are a lot of physician in training and fellow educational things that various companies are doing. Be involved with your societies, get your name out there. I think that's one of the biggest things and one of the easiest things that you can do. A lot of it is just showing up. You have to be prepared, but you have to show up and follow through and respond. And I think that'll take you a long way.
Absolutely. I think all of these are great advice, all from the research standpoint to the daily practice standpoint, where we rely on many of these reps for the technologies that we use, from a bronch that is not working as it should, or an EVOS that is not giving us the right image. We reach out to the reps and we ask them for help immediately. And that's not because for us, that's for the patient that is waiting on the waiting room. So definitely agree that this is something that we should all do. Now, do you think that working with industry can open up possibilities for different career paths that for physicians that they didn't picture they were going to take in the beginning?
I think it's a great question. And I think more and more we're seeing these sort of different career paths for physicians to go into. there are a lot of creative people out there who might excel in ways that are not just clinical medicine. And I think thinking about something other than administration, which that's fine, but working with industry and pharma, there are a lot of opportunities there. You can start out and sort of do, side gig type things, if you will, where you're a KOL, you give best practice advice to companies and you give feedback on some of their existing products, and you can talk to them about gaps in the practice and those types of things. And you can be involved in that, in varying degrees and amounts. You can be an expert user. You can help companies with training other physicians and doing case observations and proctoring. You can help them with educational initiatives, either with ideas and design or with being faculty. Or you can really take it a step further and actually become a company employee to some degree. And even within that, there are so many different avenues. You can, become a medical officer and do a little bit of everything. You can work with them as like a data analyst or officer and help them work on study design and figure out, which studies make the most sense for this company to invest in. You can work on the marketing side and sort of analyze new and emerging markets. You can do the regulatory side and work with the FDA or with other companies, or other entities in other countries, regulatory bodies, the device development side, the education side. So I think hybrid jobs between staying at your institution and working with industry in some capacity are becoming way more common.
Yeah, that's fantastic to hear. That for me was very inspiring during the last AABIP meeting. Many of the different attendings that they were disclosing their relationship with industry and how like they started working and taking on more projects and more things that many of them never envisioned they were going to do out of fellowship.
Yes, I find those stories inspiring also. And I mean, it's the same for me. I think most of us go into medicine in the traditional way. You want to help people, you like science or what have you. It's sort of a prescriptive path. I think a lot of us go on it for the clinical side. And it's as you have your own experiences and your own interactions and your own mentors, and you realize that there really is like an endless list of possibilities that you can do with your knowledge and your training as a physician that are outside of clinical medicine, that are just as important and as relevant as seeing patients, is.
Absolutely. Well, Kat, this has been amazing. Any other remarks you want to add?
I just appreciate you guys and your time in doing this. I love your podcasts. You guys always have really interesting topics. And so keep it going. I know you're donating your own time. You've been doing cases all day and now you're doing this. So thank you. We appreciate you.
Thank you so much for being with us. And thank you for everyone for listening in.